Hare Krishna. We'll get started. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रजनरंजन यशोदनंदन व्रजनरंजन यमुनतीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रजनरंजन यशोदनंदन व्रजनरंजन यमुनतीरावनचारि यमुनतीरावनचारि जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय गौरनिताय 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 जय प्रभुपादा 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 नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल जय गुरुदेवा 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 Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshur Unmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakagana Raghunathan Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaidam Savadutam Parijana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our weekly study of Bhagavad-gita. So we are continuing to read Bhagavad-gita as it is, chapter 7. Chapter 7 is entitled as Knowledge of the Absolute, or in Sanskrit is mentioned Jnana Vijnana Yoga. So this 7th chapter is the first chapter in this middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad-gita. That is, chapter 7 to 12 constitutes the Bhakti Yoga section. So the end of the 6th chapter, Krishna said, of all the yogis, the topmost yogi is one who serves me with faith, one who is always thinking of me, one who abides in me, is considered to be the topmost yogi. Yoginam api sarvesham matkadenandar atmanaha shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. So he said the greatest of all the yogis, the perfection is attained when one becomes a bhakti yogi. And that bhakti yoga is the one in the middle 6 chapters Krishna describes. So in this 7th chapter, specifically Krishna gives knowledge about himself. And then who he is. What is the glory of, the knowledge about him, right? And then he tells about various things, how all these things in this world, material energy as well as spiritual energy, all of them are his energy only, right? So this 7th chapter contains 5 sections. First section is verses 1 to 3, the glory of knowledge about Krishna. Hearing reveals phenomenal and numinous knowledge, jnana and vijnana about Krishna. Realized knowledge is very rare. And where section 2 is verses 4 to 12, knowledge of Krishna's energies. Verses 4 and 5, talked about Krishna's material energy, which consists of these 5 gross elements: earth, water, right, air, fire, and space. And then the 3 subtle elements, right, mind, intelligence, and false ego. This constitutes Krishna's separated, 8 material energies. And then beyond that, there is spiritual energy, which comprises of the living entities. And then verses 6 to 7, Krishna talked about how he is the creator, maintainer, and destroyer. And then verses 8 to 12 talks about how Krishna is all pervasive, the essence of everything, and is beyond the material modes. Verses 13 to 19, Krishna talks about surrendering unto Lord Krishna. 13 and 14 talked about how the jiva, when it is deluded by the modes of material nature, right, he cannot understand how things are. It's very difficult to cross over. But when he surrenders to Krishna, he can transcend the 3 modes. And then verses 15 and 16, he talks about 4 types of people who do and do not surrender or worship Krishna. That's what last week we saw. Verse 15, the 4 types of people who do not surrender. Namam dushkrutino muda prapatyante naradama mayaya apakirita jnana ashiram bhavam ashritaha. These are the 4 types of people. Who are they? Muda, people who are grossly foolish, right? And then Maya Apakrita Jnana, whose knowledge is stolen by the illusion. And then people who are openly atheistic. People are openly atheistic. Right? These are the 4 types of people who do not surrender. And then 4 types of people who surrender. Right? That's what we are going to see in this verse 16. Mudas, right? They are grossly foolish. Naradama, lowest of mankind. Maya Apakrita Jnana, whose intelligence is deluded by illusion, the Maya. And then Ashiram Bhavam Ashritaha, demoniac atheists. Right? These are the 4 types of people who do not surrender to Krishna. And 4 types of people, Sukritis, Duskritis, the 4 types of Duskritinas, right? Impious people who do not surrender to Krishna. And then there are 4 types of Sukritina, pious people who worship, right? Bhajante means worship Krishna. And eventually they surrender, prapadyante, unto Krishna, right? So that's what we're going to read today. Verse 16. Verse 16, I will just read the translation. Verse 15, we read the translation. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. And then these are the 4 types of people who surrender to Krishna. Elaborately in the purport, Prabhupada elaborated, these 4 types of people. Now verse 16. Chatuvida bhajante mam jana sukirtino arjuna arthogignasu artharthi nani chapardarshaba. Chatuvida, 4 kinds of bhajante, render services, mam, unto me, janaha, persons, sukritinaha, those who are pious, Arjuna, O Arjuna, arthaha, the distressed, jignasuhu, the inquisitive, artharthi, one who desires material gain, jnani, one who knows things as they are, cha, also, Bharata Rishabha, O great one amongst the descendants of Bharata. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O best among the Bharatas, O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. The distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for the knowledge of the absolute. Purport. Unlike the miscreants, these are adherents of regulative principles of the scriptures, and they are called Sukritinaha, or those who obey the rules and regulations of scriptures, the moral and social laws, and are more or less devoted to the Supreme Lord. Out of this, there are 4 classes of men: those who are sometimes distressed, those who are in need of money, those who are sometimes inquisitive, and those who are sometimes searching after knowledge of the absolute truth. These persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service under different conditions. These are not pure devotees because they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for devotional service. Pure devotional service is without aspiration and without desire for material profit. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11 defines pure devotion thus: Anya Bilachata Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukulyena Krishnanu Siranam Bhakti Ruttama. Quote: one should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. End quote. When these 4 kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service and are completely purified by the association of pure devotees, they also become pure devotees. As far as the miscreants are concerned, for them, devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. But even some of them, by chance, when they come in contact with a pure devotee, also become pure devotees. Those who are always busy with the fruitive activities come to the Lord in material distress, and at the time associate with the pure devotees and become in the distress devotees of the Lord. Those who are simply frustrated also come sometimes to associate with the pure devotees and become inquisitive to know about God. Similarly, when the dry philosophers are frustrated in every field of knowledge, they sometimes want to learn of God, and they come to the Supreme Lord to render devotional service and thus transcend the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma and come to the personal conception of Godhead by the grace of the Supreme Lord or his pure devotee. On the whole, when the distressed, the inquisitive, the seekers of knowledge, and those who are in need of money are free from all material desires, and when they fully understand that material remuneration has nothing to do with spiritual improvement, they become pure devotees. As long as such purified stage is not attained, devotees in transcendental service to the Lord are tainted with fruitive activities, the search for mundane knowledge, etc. So one has to transcend all this before one can come to the stage of pure devotional service. So here in this verse, Krishna talks about there are 4 types of people who are pious, who begin to render devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. Who are they? The distressed, artho, right? The desirer of wealth, artharthi, the inquisitive, jignasu, and then jnani, who is searching for knowledge of the absolute truth. These are the 4 types of people who starts worshipping Krishna because they have some pious background They may not know why one should worship the Supreme Lord. They may not know how he is the Supreme Lord. They may not know all the details. But because they have some pious background, they start worshipping Krishna without even understanding fully who the Supreme Lord is. Because of their pious background, they have some faith in the scriptures. They start doing something. But these people eventually, right, when they start worshipping Krishna, they start associating with devotees. And then eventually, they get purified completely. All their misconceptions, right, will go away and their devotional service becomes pure. And then Prabhupada quotes here from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, what is pure devotional service? This is something which is unique. The definition of bhakti is mentioned in different parts of different scriptures. But what is pure devotional service? That cannot be understood clearly. It is there in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-gita and other places, but clear-cut definition of what is pure devotional service, that is given here in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is unique contribution of Srila Rupa Goswami, who is the follower of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In that he says, Anya abhilashata shunyam jnana karmadi anavartam. Right? Without, right, any desires, without any anya abhilashata shunyam, without any other desires, right, with a motivation for jnana karma adi, right, without any tinge of mental speculation, philosophical speculation, right, or without any material fruitive activities, or without any desire for mystic perfection and things like that, right? Without any other desire, including these three things, and then with only desire to please Krishna, anukulyene Krishnanu, in a favorable way to Krishna, to please Krishna, Siranam Bhakti Uttama, when actively cultivated, that is called Uttama Bhakti. This definition of Uttama Bhakti is there in this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is very unique. Normally, when people, these four types of pious people, when they come to Krishna to worship, right, they have some motivation, some ulterior motive, right? I want to get something materially, or I have some distress, I want, God to remove this distress, or simply they're, some curiosity. Out of curiosity, they want to understand what is God, or they want to understand what is the absolute truth. They all have some motivation in which they come to devotional service. Hence, that bhakti is not ananya bhakti. It is called mishra bhakti, mixed devotional service. But when they associate with the devotees of the Lord, eventually that misconceptions, the ulterior motivation will go away. Their motivation gets purified, right? Then they become a pure devotee. So that's what Prabhupada elaborated in the purport here. All these four types of people, even though they may not be pure in their motivation at the beginning, because they are expecting something in return, but eventually the devotional service, it becomes uninterrupted, unmotivated, without expecting anything in return, simply for the pleasure of the Lord. When it is performed, that it becomes pure devotional service. By the tinge of association with the devotees, they eventually get purified, they become pure devotees. So then we'll go to next verse. Would anybody like to recite the next verse? 17.
I will skip today, Guruji. I can't. My voice is. I'll pass today.
Katyayani, would you like to recite?
That's what I'm saying. I will pass today. My voice is complete.
17th verse. No problem. I will recite.
Thank you.
Deshamnyani nityayukta Eka bhaktir vishishyate priyoginanino tyartam aham sacha mama priyaha. Tesam, out of them, jnani, one in full knowledge, nitya yuktaka, always engaged, eka, only, bhaktihi, in devotional service, vishishyate is special, priyaha, very dear. He, certainly, jnaninaha, to the person in knowledge, atyartam, highly, aham, I am, saha, he, cha, also, mama, to me, priyaha, dear. Translation of this, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. Purport: free from all contamination of material desires, the distressed, the inquisitive, the penniless, and the seeker after supreme knowledge can all become pure devotees. But out of them, he who is in knowledge of the absolute truth and free from all material desires becomes a really pure devotee of the Lord. And of the four orders, the devotee who is in full knowledge and is at the same time engaged in devotional service is, the Lord says, the best. The searching after knowledge. By searching after knowledge, one realizes that his self is different from his material body. And when further advanced, he comes to the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman and Paramatma. When one is fully purified, he realizes that his constitutional position is to be the eternal servant of God. So, by association with pure devotees, the inquisitive, the distressed, the seeker after material amelioration, and the man in knowledge all become themselves pure. But in the preparatory stage, the man who is in full knowledge of the Supreme Lord and is at the same time executing devotional service is very, very dear to the Lord. He who is situated in pure knowledge of the transcendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is so protected in devotional service that material contamination cannot touch him. So here Krishna says, of these four who comes to worship Krishna out of piety, the one who is in full knowledge, right, of Krishna, one who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him and he is very dear to me. Right? The third chapter we understood, right? Ye yatamam prapatyante. Right? As they surrender unto me, I reciprocate to them accordingly. Because a person with full knowledge, he develops complete attachment to Krishna and he worships him, right, in pure devotional service. Right? And for him, right, Krishna is very dear to him. And similarly, right, to reciprocate to them, that devotee becomes very dear to Krishna. Even though the Lord is impartial, he is not partial to anyone. Right? He loves all the jivas, all the creation. He does not, show partiality among the living entities, but he does not reciprocate to people who is not favorable to him, because they will, for their own benefit, the Lord does not reveal about him, because they will become more envious of him. But one, right, who is in full knowledge of Krishna and then always engaged in pure devotional service, right, because the Lord is very dear to him, the Lord reciprocates him accordingly, right? And then that devotee becomes very dear to him. And then Prabhupada mentions here, because even to all of them, all the four, right? Chadurveda Bhajante Ma, right? Jana Sukritino Arjuna, Artha Gigyasu Artharthi, Nani Cha Bhartarshapa. These four types of people who come to Krishna, even though in the beginning their motivation may not be completely pure, they may not be, without any expectation. They might have some expectation when they worship Krishna, but eventually they get purified. But of this, the one who has complete knowledge of Krishna and then worships with him, worships Krishna, right? He is very, very dear to Krishna. Next verse, 18. Would anybody like to recite? Okay, if not, I will continue. Udara sarva evaite jnanitvatmaiva me matam astita sahi yuktatma mamyevan uttamam gatim. Udaraha, magnanimous, sarve, all, eva, certainly, ete, this, jnani, one who is in knowledge too, but atma eva, just like myself, me, my, matam, opinion, astitaha, situated, saha, he certainly, yuktatma, engaged in devotional service, mam, in me, eva, certainly, anuttamam, the highest, gatim, destination. Translation. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls. But he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. Purport. It is not that devotees who are less complete in knowledge are not dear to the Lord. The Lord says that all are magnanimous because anyone who comes to the Lord for any purpose is called a Mahatma or a great soul. The devotees who want some benefit out of devotional service are accepted by the Lord because there is an exchange of affection. Out of affection, they ask the Lord for some material benefit. And when they get it, they become so satisfied that they also advance in devotional service. But the devotee in full knowledge is considered to be very dear to the Lord because his only purpose is to serve the Supreme Lord with love and devotion. Such a devotee cannot live a second without contacting or serving the Supreme Lord. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is very fond of his devotee and cannot be separated from him. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.68, the Lord says, Sadhavo hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam tvaham mad antyate anam janati naham tebhyo managapi. The devotees are always in my heart and I am always in the heart of the devotees. The devotee does not know anything beyond me and I also cannot forget the devotee. There is a very intimate relationship between me and the pure devotees. Pure devotees in full knowledge are never out of spiritual touch. And therefore, they are very much dear to me. So here in this verse, Krishna said, right, even though, right, in the beginning, they might be coming the four type of devotees who come to him, they might have some motivation, right? Their devotional service may not be completely pure, but undoubtedly they are all great because they are coming to Krishna. But one who is situated in the knowledge of Krishna, right? Krishna treats him, right, like his own self because he's completely in the material spiritual platform. He's completely out of the material platform. He transcended the material modes, material platform, and then he's completely situated, right, in the spiritual platform. Because of that, right, Krishna considers himself to be identical to himself. Being engaged in the transcendental service is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. Right? So here Krishna is telling what is the highest perfection one can attain in the human form of life. That is attaining transcendental service to the Lord and attaining the spiritual world. Right? That is the highest and most perfect goal. So again, the purport proper explains, right? It is not that the devotees who have less knowledge of the Lord does not love. He loves all of them equally, but he reciprocates to the one who surrenders to himself completely. Because if he does not surrender, then the Lord cannot reciprocate, because it's not possible. When there is a loving relationship, then only the exchange of love can happen. That's why Krishna earlier in the 3rd chapter itself, he said, Ye etamam prapadyante tamsatariva bhajamyaham. Right? As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Right? Further, Krishna proper quotes here from the 9th canto, 4th chapter, 68th verse. Right? The devotees are always in my heart, and I'm always in the heart of the devotees. And the devotees does not know anything beyond me, and I cannot forget the devotee. And there is a very intimate relationship between me and the pure devotees. Right? And the pure devotees are never out of spiritual touch, and they are very much dear to me. This is verdict of Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam as well. Next verse. It's a very important verse. Anybody would like to recite this? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
I will try, Guruji.
If it's a little hard for you because still it looks like you are not well, I can continue to. Otherwise, you can try.
Why don't you read, Guruji, today?
Okay. Bhagunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapatyate vasudevaha sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabhaha. Bhagunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapatyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabhaha. Bhagunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapatyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabhaha. Bhagunam, many, janmanam, repeated births and deaths, ante, after, jnanavan, one who is in full knowledge, mam, unto me, prapadyate, surrenders, vasudevaha, the personality of Godhead, Krishna, sarvam, everything, iti, thus, saha, that, mahatma, great soul, sudurlabhaha, very rare to see. Translation. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all the days. Such a great soul is very rare. I'll repeat again. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all the days. Such a great soul is very rare. Purport. The living entity, while executing devotional service or transcendental rituals after many, many births, may actually become situated in transcendental pure knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning towards impersonalism. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in the spiritual life and that these activities constitute devotional service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders to him. At such a time, one can understand that Lord Shri Krishna's mercy is everything, that he is the cause of all causes, and that this material manifestation is not independent from him. He realizes the material world to be a perverted reflection of spiritual variegatedness, and thus realizes that in everything there is a relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Thus, he thinks of everything in relation to Vasudeva or Shri Krishna. Such a universal vision of Vasudeva precipitates one's full surrender to the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna as the highest goal. Such surrendered great souls are very rare. This verse is very nicely explained in the 3rd chapter, verse 14 and 15 of the Svetasvatara Upanishad. Shagashra Shirsha Purushaga, Shagashraksha Shagashrapat, Sa Bhumin Vishvato Vritva, Tyatishtat Dasangulam, Purusha Evedam Sarvam, Yat Bhutam Yacha Bhavyam, Utamrita Vasya Eshano, Yat Anendaratiro Khati. Lord Vishnu has thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, and thousands of feet, entirely encompassing the whole universe. He still extends beyond it by 10 fingers breadth. This is in fact this entire universe. He is all that was and all that will be. He is the Lord of immortality and of all that is nourished by food. In the Chandogya Upanishad 5.1.15, it is said, Navai vacho na shakshumshi na stotrani na manam chityakshate prana iti evakshate prano hi evaitani sarvani bhavanti. Quote, in the body of a living entity, in the body of a living being, neither the power to speak, nor the power to see, nor the power to hear, nor the power to think is the prime factor. It is life which is the center of all activities. Similarly, Vasudeva, or the personality of Godhead Lord Shri Krishna, is the prime entity in everything. In this body, there are powers of speaking, of seeing, of hearing, of mental activities, etc. But these are not important if not related to the Supreme Lord. And because Vasudeva is all-pervading and everything is Vasudeva, the devotee surrenders in full knowledge. Right? 7.17 and 11.40. Right? Because he is in full knowledge, he surrenders to Krishna completely. So as I said, this is a very, very important verse. A person who is in the path of spiritual journey, right, after making advancement in the path of spirituality, after going through this karma yoga, right? That karma yoga, again, these two divisions, right? Sakama karma, nishkama karma. From nishkama karma, one comes to jnana yoga. From jnana yoga to dhyana yoga. After purifying the body, mind, and intelligence, he comes to the platform of the soul. When he comes to the platform of the soul after many, many lives, after making progress in the path of spirituality, Bhagunam Janmanam Ante, a person who understood the absolute truth surrenders unto me. Jnanaman Mam Prapatyate. Why he surrenders to the Lord? Because he understands Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Everything is existing because of Lord Shri Krishna. Everything is sustained by Vasudeva. Everything is emanating from Vasudeva. Sa Mahatma Sudurlabhaga, such a soul, such a great soul, is very, very rare. Sudurlabhaga, very rare to see. Right? Because after going through many lives of purification, he understands Vasudeva is everything and then he surrenders to him. Such a soul is very rare. So again, Prabhupada quotes from the Sritasvatara Upanishad that the Supreme Lord has, right, of heads, thousands of eyes, and thousands of feet, entirely encompassing the whole universe. He still extends beyond it by 10 fingers breadth. That means he is not, even though the whole universe is sustained by him, the Lord is beyond this universal form. Even though everything is sustained by him, right, he is beyond that. Right? Bhagavan is beyond all the material creation. He is existing in the spiritual world as Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Like in Chandogya Upanishad, he quotes how, right, in everybody's body, right, we all have different abilities, right? Ability to speak, ability to hear, ability to smell. But more than all these abilities, what is more important? The soul. Similarly, there are so many things existing, right? Of all, the Supreme Lord is the most important thing. Understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest perfection of knowledge. Next verse. Kamaistair hritagyanagha prapatyante anya devataha tam niyamam ashtaya prakritya netasvaya Kamaistair hritagyanagha prapatyante anya devataha tam niyamam ashtaya prakritya netasvaya Kamaihi by desires, taihi various, krita deprived of jnanaha knowledge, prapadyante surrender, anya to other, devata demigods, tam corresponding, niyamam regulations, astaya following, prakritya by nature, netaha controlled, swayaha by their own. Right? A person who understands, attains perfection of knowledge, he surrenders to Krishna, right? Then why then not everybody does not surrender to Krishna? That question might come. If that is the case, then everybody should surrender to Krishna when attain perfection. But Krishna says why some people do not surrender to Krishna. Translation. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures, right? People who wanted to understand the supreme absolute truth eventually understand Krishna is the supreme absolute truth and they surrender. But sometimes people surrender to other devatas. Why? Because they have some material desire to fulfill. If they do not have any material desires, eventually they will come to Krishna. Even if they go to some devatas without any material desires, those devatas will redirect that person to Krishna. But if they have a material desire, then, right, they will worship that personality for that particular desire, to fulfill that particular desire. Because they worship different devatas out of their own nature, depending on the mode in which they are situated, either in the Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. Accordingly, they get attracted to different devatas and they start aspiring different types of material benefits from the devatas. Purport. Those who are freed from all material contaminations surrender into the Supreme Lord and engage in his devotional service. As long as the material contamination is not completely washed off, they are by nature non-devotees. But even those who have material desires, who resort to the Supreme Lord, are not so much attracted by external nature. Because of approaching the right goal, they soon become free from all material lust. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is recommended that whether one is a pure devotee and is free from all material desires, or is full of material desires, or desires liberation from the material contamination, he should in all cases surrender to Vasudeva and worship him, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaratihi tivrena bhakti yogena jajate purusham param. Right? As right, this Prabhupada already explained, whether somebody is without any material desires, or whether they have all material desires, or whether they have desire for liberation, right? All of them should surrender to the Supreme Lord. Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajate Purusham Param. Who is the Purusham Param? Param Purusha, the Supreme Lord. Who is the Supreme Lord? From Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam we can understand, although from other Vedic literature also as well, we understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Lord Shri Krishna. Less intelligent people who have lost their spiritual sense take shelter of demigods for immediate fulfillment of material desires. Generally, such people do not go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are in the lower modes of nature, ignorance and passion, and therefore worship various demigods. Following the rules and regulations of worship, they are satisfied. The worshippers of demigods are motivated by small desires. From the 9th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, we will come to know. Right? Because they have some material desires, they get attracted towards the devatas because they reciprocate to them with material benefits. The worshippers of demigods are motivated by small desires and do not know how to reach the supreme goal. But a devotee of the Supreme Lord is not misguided, because in Vedic literature, there are recommendations for worshipping different gods for different purposes. Example, a deceased man is recommended to worship the sun. Those who are not devotees of the Lord think that for certain purposes, demigods are better than the Supreme Lord. But a pure devotee knows that Supreme Lord Krishna is the master of all. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila, 5th chapter, 142 verse, it is said, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasabha Bhritya. Only the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is master and all others are servants. Therefore, a pure devotee never goes to demigods for satisfaction of his material needs. He depends on the Supreme Lord, and the pure devotee is satisfied with whatever he gives. So here Prabhupada is very, nicely elaborating. A pure devotee never, there is no need of going to any other personality. The Lord fulfills everything. There is one difference between the Lord giving and the Devata giving. The Devatas, when you perform a particular puja or a particular tapasya or austerity for a particular material benefit, they are obligated to give, whether it is good for you or not good for you. When you want something, if you perform that puja or austerity towards a particular devata, they are obligated to give it to you. Whether it's good for you or bad for you, it doesn't matter. Whether it's a business transaction, they are obligated to give. Whereas the Supreme Lord, when you approach him for some material benefits, if it is going to help you to progress in your spiritual life, that is, it's going to help you to develop further love for Krishna, he will give it to you. If that boon you are seeking from the Lord, if it is not going to help you to progress in your spiritual life, he will withhold it. He will first purify you. He will purify your desire. Then he will give it to you. That is the difference between the Supreme Lord giving and the Devatas giving. That is why Bhagavatam says, Akama sarva kamo va moksha kamo udaratihi. Whether you don't have no desires or whether you have all desires, all of them should approach the Supreme Lord. Even with material desires, when you approach the Supreme Lord will purify you and then eventually give it to you. By the time you are purified, you are not anymore interested in the spiritual desire, material desire. So going to the spiritual Lord with the material desires is like, looking for a broken piece of glass when there is a valuable diamond or a valuable jewel. Right? That's the pastime from Srimad Bhagavatam. We can understand Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva, in the beginning, he went to the Supreme Lord with a material desire. What is the material desire? He wanted a kingdom greater than his father and grandfather. Because he got insulted by his stepmother, she did not allow him to sit on the lap of his father. Dhruva Maharaj got insulted and leaves. The 5-year-old boy leaves the home, goes to the forest. Then he asks Narada Muni to give a mantra. He starts worshipping the Lord with intense tapasya, and the Lord appears. When the Lord appears, he touches him with a conch shell in his head. When he touches him with the conch shell, Dhruva is completely purified and he starts offering prayers. At that time, in the prayer, he said, "Oh Lord, I came to you with material desires. But now, after seeing you, I don't want any of those things." Because asking for any material desires from you is like seeking for a broken piece of glass when there is a valuable jewel. When you are there, why would I want any material desires? I don't want anything. In fact, that's what, Dhruva Maharaj says in Srimad Bhagavatam in his prayers. But nonetheless, because he is completely purified, he will not misuse the boon the Lord is going to give. The Lord anyway gives a kingdom which is greater than his great-grandfather. He gives the Dhruva Loka. So like that. So it is better to approach the Supreme Lord even for the material desires. Even though going to the Lord with the material desire is like seeking for a broken piece of glass when there is a valuable jewel, but it is better than going to a Devata, because going to a Devata they will not purify and give you the boon. They are obligated to give. The example is, right, Lord Brahma giving the boon to Hiranyakashipu. Right? Hiranyakashipu wants immortality. Whereas Brahma says, I cannot give immortality because I don't have myself. But Hiranyakashipu, he thought he is very clever. He asks for a boon. He should neither be killed by an animal or a human, neither in the air or in the earth, neither in the sky or in the earth, neither in the daytime or in the nighttime, right? Neither by any weapons. Like that, he puts many conditions, neither inside nor outside, like that. But then Brahmaji says he is obligated to give. He gives the boon. Tadastu. Then Hiranyakashipu thought he is invincible, he is become immortal. He starts such a chaos, such a disturbance to the entire universe. Even Brahmaji could not do anything about it because he is obligated. Even though he knew that he is going to misuse the boon, he was obligated to give. Similarly, right, this Padmashura, right, he goes to Lord Shiva seeking for a boon. And then Lord Shiva is obligated to give the boon eventually. What is that boon? If I touch anybody's head, that person should die. After getting the boon, that rascal demon, he'll go and try to touch the head of Lord Shiva. And then Lord Shiva has to run. And eventually Vishnu comes and then saves the situation. Right? He tells the Asura, don't believe in what Lord Shiva, the boon he gave. If you have doubt, please touch your head, nothing will happen. He touches his own head and then he completely gets finished. So, Narsinghadev, after killing Hiranyakashipu, he gives, right, benedictions to Prahlad. Prahlad, in fact, he doesn't want it, but the Lord gives the boon. And then also later tells Brahmaji, in future, don't give this kind of boons to the demons. Even though when the demons are performing, austerity and asking for boon, in future, don't grant this type of boons to the demons because they will cause disturbance to the entire universe. Like that. We'll stop here. Any comments? Any question? I know last week, I could not come because I have to go to the temple for some service. I thought I could come back on time to give the class at 5:30, but I got, stuck in the temple with the extended service. And then because I was in the service, I could not even, come out to pick up the phone and send a message to you that I could not, do the class last week. I'm really sorry that I could not.
That's okay, Guruji. It's okay.
I'll be able to come back. I thought the service will get over because last week there was a big festival in the temple for Narasimha Chaturthi. So I went to the temple for the service, but unfortunately I could not come out. So today also I touched a little bit about Narasimhadev and Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad. Now Hiranyakashipu is the wrong example of seeking for a boon, going to a Devata, whereas Prahlad Maharaj is the perfect example of a pure devotee. Even when the Lord wanted to give, he did not want it. But because he was pure, the Lord gave the benefit anyway, the boons. He made him as the king for the entire universe, ruler of the entire universe. And then eventually, also the Lord delivered 21 generation before and 21 generation after because of Prahlad's pure devotion. Any other comments, questions, reflections? If not, we'll stop here. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.